everybody, good morning and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, and Disembodied Hands Quindy, Justin, and John, and an absentee Kiki this morning. An absentee Kiki. She's collapsed in front of her open screen door where she is hoping that it stays cool, but she's doomed to fail today because it's supposed to be like 75. No Kiki. No Kiki unless she comes by later. She'll probably hear me talking and maybe come in here or somewhere. Yes, I'm sorry. You were all looking forward to Kiki, and I also have to scroll back up and thank you. But she's like planted in front of the door, like right now. So hold on. That's because Kiki is irrationally happy, Tyler. I just wish she'd be a little less like bitey right now. All right, we have 2 subs to thank. We have Twisted Oma on 42 months, and for some reason it seems to like think that you missed a month in there, so your streak is only 41. But that's okay, Twisted Oma. I'm gonna give it to you. 42 it is. Major Asnabob, hey, I haven't seen you for a while. Major is 4 months. Thank you for the resub. But yes, everyone's day is ruined. She is getting more chillish, but she's still nippy. Like, she really nailed my arm this morning because she was just so excited because it was my fault probably for leaning over and trying to pick up her toys in the morning, which is always she thinks it's playtime. So, but I was trying to like get them. Oh, okay, you work and learn. It's cool. We appreciate your eyes. We appreciate your virtual eyeballs on increasing our Twitch count. It's all good. But yeah, maybe she'll stop by later on. But she's like, I think she's like camped in front of the door right now, so she'll decide whether she's going to come in or not. But yes, it's supposed to be a glorious, beautiful day here today in the South Bay. Finally! And then it's supposed to go down in the 60s again. I'm like, but 60s is still very nice for many of you who are still getting snow or bad, crazy, rainy weather. So yes, I'm happy that... Okay, Korniko, I have a question for you. Do you have a yarn swift for turning your skeins into balls easier? Or do you just use like the back of a chair or something? Or do you sweet talk your local store into doing it for you? Hey Sarge, nice to see you. Nice to meet you. I don't know if I've seen Sarge says before. You do not have one. Yeah, I was thinking about getting one because the new yarn that I got that I adore, that I want to buy more from this person, only comes in skeins, and I'm like, after rolling up my first ball of yarn out of a skein and getting it completely screwed up, I'm like, maybe it's worth the $120. Is it African or European, Valandar? Oh yeah. That's funny. It's funny how they change when they're 1, right? But Kiki still has 2.5 months before that happens, and I'm like, dog. She's just got so much energy. So much energy. I'm going to get my metallics out of here because my metallics are totally cramping my style today. I'm not metallicing. But, yeah. A yarn swift, for those who have no idea, is like this weird like contraption with bands and wood that you wrap your yarn skein around, and then you can essentially attach the end to a little ball maker, and it'll just spin the skein, and you can very nicely and neatly wrap up your yarn into a ball, or you can just do the ball on your hand if you want to. You don't have to have the little cool ball, winder, but. Yeah, see, that's what I think. That's what I was thinking, Korniko. Like, $120 to me seems worth it. Like, David watched me wind this ball, and he's just like, that took you forever. And I'm like, yes, this is why it's worth the $120 to get the Swift plus the ball wrapper. The contraption. It's worth the contraption. Because that's it, right? Like, how much time do I really want to spend? I would rather be spending my time in front of the TV knitting than winding up this ball of yarn. Yeah, I just can't, yeah, I checked, I found one online. I know which one I want, Twisted Oma. It's just, is it worth the $120, right? Like, that's the thing. All right, we're going to do Cathy. We're going to do a glaze over her hair, followed by a magenta glaze, then we're going to call it good. So what do you want to know about Cathy and why there's a tribute to her, or what do you want to know about how I'm going to paint her? To be absolutely specific there, Tyler. Hello, green users. Hello, hello. So I'm going to get a little bit in focus here. Cathy has a tribute miniature because she is a fantastic person. Unlikely at our library's bookend. They're very digitally oriented. Cathy is the wife of James Wappel, and both of them have been ReaperCon people, coming and essentially instructing and demoing at Camp Wappel at ReaperCon. And James has taught in the past as well. They're just essentially pillars of the painting community, and Cathy was sadly diagnosed with cancer. I think I want to say it was early last year, maybe the late year before, I don't remember, but she's been fighting it. But as they make all their living just from their art, like James's mini painting, Patreon and YouTube and everything are their sole income, along with whatever Cathy's got going on her side. So the cancer bills are pretty hefty. Let's just put it that way. So a lot of companies made, like Reaper has produced the Cathy tribute, and Dark Sword I think also. And then at Adepticon, they were selling t-shirts also, Fort Wappel t-shirts to help raise money for the care. So yeah, so that is why. And Cathy is just like a whimsical being. Like, she's like one of those people who, like, you know, she's not a spring chicken, but she like still acts like she's just like, she has the spirit of a whimsical 12-year-old fairy child. That's the best way I can put it. Like, that is Cathy. Like, yes, please shout out James's channel. There's the Cathy figure. Quitty's giving you all the stuff. James is amazing, and you should watch him when he's on streaming on YouTube, and you should consider his Patreon if you really want, like, your eyes open to, like, the wonders of oil painting on miniatures, for example. James is a classically trained painter who was making a living doing 2D art for a very long time, and switched over to miniatures and has just been knocking it out of the park ever since. And he's just has a very different style. He's got a very different methodology, and so he could be a really, like, very different experience. Yeah, I know, me too. She is a wonderful human. She is, like I said, she's extremely whimsical, and she keeps her childlike sense of joy and wonder. And she also has a wicked sense of humor. So Cathy is a unique individual, as we are all, but she is, we would miss her greatly. So we are doing everything we can to help them out. That said, Cathy has requested, at least on the last stream I was on, she requested that people not bug James about how she's doing. They should just, like, talk to her when she's streaming and things like that. Because it's a lot. It's a lot to process. But yeah, so that is why we are doing this. And because I think Cathy is awesome. I want to grow up to be Cathy Wappel myself. I'm going to, I want to make a glaze, but I'm going to mix up some white anyway. I'm probably going to need it. And then we'll have to figure out some things about this model, some things and stuff. We have to figure out, in short, a color scheme. Although I know I want some yellow, so I think we're going to be going primary. We could go crazy and do what we did on the other model, except include our cyan blue and do the whole thing in cyan, magenta, and yellow with black and white. We could do that. That could be fun. Yes, her people are insane. Exactly. So hopefully it's all good. Yeah, no, people asked about Cathy Wappel Gibson because we're painting her tribute miniature, so I was explaining that Cathy had Cathy's health issue, so we are helping out. Not streaming currently? Okay. Yes, you should give her Twitch a follow, for sure. Yep, yeah, I imagine she's pretty exhausted. At least my friends who have gone through all that report definite exhaustion. Alrighty, cool. Let's get this glaze going on. So I want to make a white glaze, which is the glaze thou shalt be very careful about, by the way. So I'm going to see what I can get. I'm going to kind of test it on the side of the wood block here just to see. So white glazes are persnickety. I normally do light colored glazes over skin, but here I want to put just a kind of a fog of white over her hair, and then do one more hit of magenta just to bring it up a little bit more. I'm liking how the back is looking, but I want the sides a little bit more up to where I want this color. So yeah, so let's try that glaze. So light glazes are very, very delicate things. Because the white is so opaque, and this includes any light color that has a lot of white in it, because the white is so opaque, it's very easy to leave brush strokes in the middle of your glaze. So you got to put it on, and either put it on in the just brush a thin layer over everything like kind of way, or if you're going to hit it with a big blob of white glaze, then you've really got to slurp it off around the edges. Once it starts to dry, it's very easy to take it up and get yourself brush strokes. So light glazes, the easiest glazes to do are mid to dark glazes because most of those colors have more transparency. There are exceptions like pure black, but I don't know. Oh, okay, there is one example. There's one reason I would do a black glaze, and it's for translucent stockings and that kind of effect. So let's try to just brush this over the surface and see. I don't think it's quite dark enough. Well, maybe it is. Yeah. So I'm kind of testing it by just brushing it real thin over this ponytail, this pigtail rather, to see if I've got enough coverage for what I'm seeking. It's a real it's a process kind of trying to build this up. And trying to apply it to get it to the point where it will just barely lighten everything, just take everything up a step. That's actually working. It's very invisible. I'm going to add a little bit more white. So I'm just kind of tuning it as I go and testing it. And when I add a tiny bit of white, this is how much I'm adding, like a tiny bit on the end of my brush, that much, just because if I go over top, then it's really hard to tune it back. There are two ways to do stockings, Gibson. It's the same with any translucent fabric. It's not just stockings, it's any translucents. We've done translucent on here before. But the main ways to do it are either to glaze over with a color after you've painted the skin already, or to paint the color on and then to highlight it by mixing in your skin tone. So it really depends on the color of your skin tone also, and the color of the stockings as to what way it'll work the best. Yes, exactly. Maybe you get to be a butterfly. Pure white is the only white for me. Solid white is different. It's a different base. It's a different formulation. It does not thin as well as pure white. I'm going to try to put this on over here. So we're going to get this glaze over the rear heart. Then I'm going to come back in and I'm going to grab my brush and I'm going to try to pull off these little bits. Luckily with pure white, you really can see where your excess fluid is. Just try to pull it off around edges or creases. See how it's gone a little misty now? How it's not as bright? That's what I'm looking for. It tends to not, Gibson. That's why with black, you almost always will use the glaze, not the skin tone mix. Because the reason is skin tones have a lot of yellow in them, and when you mix them into black, you get olive. So usually if you're going to do those smoky black stockings, you've got to do the glaze or layering. Glaze, probably layering plus glaze is going to give you your best results. Real fine layering. It is an advanced technique, definitely, for that. And if you try to do it without practicing your layering and glazing, you will get very frustrated and probably ruin it. That said, you should, obviously you'll never learn to do it unless you play with those techniques. So do those techniques for sure. But maybe try with some easier stuff before you try the black. All right, so I've lightened that up a little bit. Now I'm going to grab my magenta. See, it's kind of faded it a little bit. See, a little bit lighter. There have been many cat dragons and winged cats. Yeah, it's it's a very difficult technique, even for those of us. Just because, and it depends on the size of the miniature. It just depends on the size of the area that you're trying to do the glaze over, but it can be very difficult. And I honestly would use gray liner instead of pure black. All right, glaze time. Let's get our magenta. I might leave my magenta a bit stronger this time. It's going to go over and it's still going to go on top of the darks, but I want it to bring things up, so I may just leave it very strong indeed. This is a 4:1, but as you can see, it's still transparent. Yeah, you just didn't have probably the toolbox, right, Gibson? Because you didn't know how to do it, and it's one of the most difficult techniques, so. I mean, the best thing to do then is not even to do the glazing or to try to get the stockings so much as to just do the fishnet pattern. Just do the crisscross fishnets. And that's usually good enough on 28. Yeah, don't fall off of stuff. Try not to fall off of stuff. Just do layering, Gibson. Practice your layering and glazing on the skin tones, as you say, and then, okay, I added a little bit more. I'm going to do this. And then go back and try the other stuff. But definitely it's a practice intensive, I would say. So glaze. Glaze, 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 glaze. Pretty potent glaze at this point. Glaze, glaze, glaze. Glaze, glaze. Glaze, 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 glaze. Okay. You don't have to sing the glaze song like I did, but all right. So that's brought it up a little bit more. We've got more. I'm happier with my magenta now. It's a little brighter, especially on the front. It's a little brighter. So okay, I'm gonna settle there for now, and maybe I'll think about adjusting a little bit more as we go on. I don't know that I have a transparent cloth model right now. We were going to do stockings on the legs of the goth, but I really like having that skin tone for her legs. I don't want to dim it down or do anything to it, so I feel like she needs it to balance her. So I decided not to do translucent stockings on her, much as she would be an okay subject for it. But she's also really busy already, so just leaving those legs just unbroken. Hi, Sean. Less paint on the brush, thin the brush, thin the paint. Less paint on the brush, thin the paint. If you're not happy with your skin, you're either over thinning or under thinning. Most people are under thinning, or you've got too much paint on your brush, so it's getting out of your control and leaving blobs. In which case, you should go watch my Control Your Paint video on my YouTube. All right, let us do a skin tone. Cathy has a pinkish tannish skin tone, pinkish Caucasianish skin tone. I am going to use a bit of rosy skin and do I want to use rosy skin and youthful flesh and then build a shadow? Let's do that. So peachy flesh and rosy skin, and I'm going to add something to it to take it a little bit more rosy. I think I'm going to add some ruddy leather. So I'm going to mix, because I want a darker, I like to start dark and work light. And starting with these mids is actually too light, is my opinion. Much as they are mids. So yeah, even though these are midtones, even though rosy skin, peachy flesh are both midtones, they are very light, and I don't like starting that light. If you are doing, if you're at the like a beginner level and you're doing a wash on skin tones, however, to bring out details, then working straight with rosy or youthful, or sorry, rosy or peachy, they renamed it, is fine. But if you are like me and you find that you don't get your shadows dark enough on your skin tones, if you start in the lighter mid, then consider adding in some shadows. All right, so the color is that. You can see how light these colors are. They're really, 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 really light. Really, really, really light. And that is not dark enough for me. So, since I want it to be a more of a rosy-ish skin tone, I'm going to use a reddish brown to cut this. So, ruddy leather. If I use something with too much, I'm just going to do 2 little tiny dabs there against the side of the palette and see what I get. You don't want to put ever in too much. And I'm going to add 1 drop of water. That should turn it, yeah. Turns it a little darker, a little redder. I still feel like I want it to be darker. We'll see. All right, that'll work. So that's more of a shadow color. It's a little muted. That's the black coming through from the ruddy leather. But I like that a little better. Now I'm going to remix my mid and see what I can do. So you can see how dark that is compared to that. And I still feel like I might want it a little darker, but if I want a little darker, I might actually add a bit of, no, not that. Where did I put? Like, I could go all the way down to rosy shadow, to be honest. That'll bring it a little bit pinker. And this, you can see, it's the same, almost the same shade as what I've mixed. Let's get that there. And this. Humans have messed up the planet in general. Alrighty. Let's put that base, that darker base down and see if I like it. Pop it up here. I feel like I need to go work outside today. Enjoy my summer while it's here for one day before it gets down to 60 tomorrow. All right, so we'll pop this over everything. I still don't know if that's supposed to be an earring or hair, or if it's actually a blorf and I missed dealing with it. I have no idea. I probably need to look at a painted version of this. It could be her ear and it could be an earring. Okay, have fun, Shadow Raven. Yes, it's nice out today. If it's nice out today, we should all enjoy the weather. So even with making a much darker color, notice how light this skin looks. Like, this is the dark color that I mixed, but it is definitely looking lighter rather than darker next to the hair. But we'll see what we can do. Jen painted it as an earring? Okay, then I will too. Thanks, Kundi. I didn't have time to look it up on my phone. I figured it wasn't accidental because the resolution on this figure is very good. So what do you guys think about the idea of painting this with CMYK? And white, obviously. A lot of mixing if we do it. It's not far from what we did with the yellow cleric. Except we'd have the cyan as well. Essentially, we'll be mixing every color from red, yellow, blue, black, and white. If we do that. Except, of course, for the skin tone, which I violated that, but... So the answer for me is always to darken my base skin tone, Gibson, but I'm also going to probably wait and decide whether this is actually too light, because when I start putting other stuff down, it's going to make a difference. Although I can also mix a quick shadow, so hold on. How I would fix this if I was Gibson. One second. First of all, I make sure I got a really good solid base coat down. Because sometimes especially over white primer or a lighter color like the gray, the skin will just look lighter. So a nice solid coat. And then, when mixing shadows for skin, I typically will use, again, a reddish brown or a yellow brown, like russet brown, to mix a shadow. But on Cathy, because she's got rosy skin, I'm going to actually grab a bit of this. I think I'm going to actually just grab because I was using it, I'm going to grab my rosy shadow and I'm going to pop a little bit of the ruddy brown into it. Bloop, bloop. So let's get a couple of that. Let's get some ruddy brown, and let's not be shy with the ruddy brown this time. Let's go all in. Full drop. So it's really dicey when you're doing skin tone shadows. You can do it this way. This is more of the American miniature painter way to mix a shadow. Portraiture people do it very different, Gibson. If I was doing it like a portraiture artist, I would have added blue-green. Yep. Yeah, because it's very easy, because your shadows need to be very small on your skin tones. So let's do this. So notice this is one shade down, more or less, from this color. So what it is 2 drops of rosy shadow and a drop of ruddy leather. Then I'm going to throw some water in it. And then I'm going to be very, very, very limited in where I put it. Yeah, I'm not normally like, CMYK is like, I think a gimmick painting thing. It's just red, yellow, blue, black, white. It doesn't really matter what red, yellow, blue you use, although orange phase yellows are usually a little better. But I mean, you can do it with, you can do the same kind of thing. There's nothing magical about cyan, magenta, yellow is what I'm trying to tell you. There's nothing magical about it. The reason that we fixate on it is because it's used in printers' inks. And it's used in printers' inks because they can be transparent. Those inks are totally transparent, so when you layer them over a white page, you can essentially create like a million colors by using that transparency over the white paper and just putting on more heavier saturation of various inks or lighter. So paints are not completely transparent. They are not completely soluble like inks, so you're not going to get the same effect. So people fixating on the cyan, magenta, yellow thing is like, it's really just red, yellow, blue, black, white, and you can use anything you want. If you're looking to paint purples, then use cyan, then use the magenta as your red. If you want to, if you're doing a much warmer color scheme, then consider using a different red as your red. Like you should, in my opinion, you should choose your red, yellow, blue depending on the colors of the miniature you want to paint. Like you choose a red, warmer or colder one according to what you're painting. Adobe disagrees because it's like, it's working on that kind of, if you put it in that spectrum, that's what it's going to work on, right? It's going to work by that computer, and it's the same thing. It's the same thing because light is also transparent. So when you're on a computer and you're in a graphics program, you're working with light. Light is very different from pigment. So Adobe is like working on that printer's ink, like that whole CMYK thing depends on transparency. Only because of transparency can you get beautiful oranges with magenta and yellow using light or ink. It's like, it does ISIS, but I mean, it's pretty easy to do with Master Series. I mean, I would use the magenta if obviously I've got pure magenta, so I'm going to use it. Lantern yellow is pretty much an orange phase yellow, almost entirely. Cyan blue is not a pure pigment paint, but it'll work just fine. People overthink this a lot. People overthink it. It's not magic. It's just a red, yellow, and a blue. I could choose any moderately saturated, mostly doesn't have other pigments in it, red, yellow, blue, as long as there's no black present. And I could make it work. Now you're going to get different effects. Like if your yellow is a yellow oxide or a yellow ochre, you're going to get a muted palette, but you can still do a lot of the same tricks. It's just going to give you a totally muted palette. And that's where I think people are missing out. Like they're going for these super bright colors and mixing it. And that's cool because you can get super saturated hues and stuff. But you also can do some amazing stuff using a more muted red, muted yellow, muted blue, and just working with that, you can get some very interesting effects. So, hey there, Gelton. But yeah, I feel like, I've always felt like the way that people fixate on CMYK is kind of just, it's a gimmick thing, and it's like I said, it's based on the magic that can be done with transparency, but paint is not transparent. All pigments have an opacity. And with miniature painting, most miniatures paints have they've not only do they have opacity, they've made it their god. So, all right. So Gibson, if you're going to introduce shadows on a miniature, under the cheekbone, and notice how it's just a little bit darker, right? And I'm going to be blocky here because I can always blend it in. Under the jawline. Bottom side of the nose. Under the bottom lip. It'll probably just look like painting the lip, but that's okay. And once you've blocked them in, oh, and the other one is, normally it'd be under the brows, so instead I'm going to fill in the glasses. So like the brow ridge, like here, right above the eye and below the eyebrow, that would be darker. So that alone, I'll get the ear a little bit because I believe in shading a lot of the ear because the ear tends to be a little bit darker and redder. So bottom of the jaw, under the cheekbone. She's got lines around her mouth because she's smiling, so we do want to get those lines with this darker color. And a little bit of shadow right under the glasses as well because it's casting a shadow. A little bit of lines, so there. So now it stands out better. Right. Yeah, but it's still working. It's a transparent, like, you're still working with light. It's still different. But yes, I get what you're saying. But that's why, like, you can't treat paint the same way. Uh-oh, that was a highlight, and I shouldn't have done that. 1 second. Because light and paint are not the same. And inks and paint are not the same. Allison, dark skin tones are a whole big, their own thing. And yes, usually blues and purples. Depending on the light source and the actual skin tone color. Sometimes greens if it's lighter, if it's a lighter brown skin tone. Let me see if I can find 1 second. I had a cool picture a while ago. Let's see if I can actually find it quickly. There's a cool colored pencil piece. And I'm gambling on it being somewhere toward the top of my camera roll because it is a dark skin tone piece. Should be around here. We'll see if I can find it. If I can't find it soon, then I'll put it aside, but there was an African American or an African piece. Almost. I feel like it's getting real close. But if I can't find it, I can't find it. Found a picture of my old kitty. Hey, Kerniko. This is my first kitty. Ishtar. She was an Abyssinian. This is the only picture I have of her. She was a ruddy Abyssinian. And she had really green eyes. She looks like a baby mountain lion. If I got another cat, that was Isha Squish. We loved Ishtar. If I got another cat, it would absolutely be an Abyssinian, I think. All right, if I can't find this soon, I gotta stop. But hey, you guys got to see, like, pretty stuff. Almost. It'll come now. The crap I keep, folks. Like, the crap I keep on my photo roll. Have you ever had that thought when looking through your photo roll? When you're trying to find something and you're like, OMG, WTF? Alright, we're getting way too mired in now. Now I've got lots of puppy pictures, but I'm just trying to keep it real here. Nope. Tons of dog pictures. Like, I could show you guys, like, miles and miles of dog pictures. But that is not what we are here for today. Oh, come on. Come on, colored pencil thing. I know you're here. I know you're here somewhere. Everybody's like, we just want to see the dog pictures. Screw the colored pencil piece. Also, lots of Soldier 76 work in progress pictures. Yeah, I'm just not finding it. Dang it. It was such a good example of dark skin tones done in colored pencil with purple shadows. It was like really, really a good one. Yeah, I'm just not seeing it. Oh well. Oh well, I tried. I tried. There's so many reference photos on here and so much stuff I should just clear off. Yeah, I probably... Nope. Nope, no love. No love. Lots of Hawaii photos. I keep hoping I'm gonna, like, stumble across it, like, just, like, happenstancey. But yeah. Oh well. Tough. Ah, there. Nope, that's not it. Dang it. But yeah, it really depends. If you look at Grace Jones, however, which I do have a photo of, and it's hard to see, but there are some purpley tones. So it's like reddish browns, and this is very bright light. And so since it's bright and artificial, it's really lighting up her skin tones. You see a lot of red in it. You see some blue on the top. But I do save pictures of like dark skin tones a lot because having a good reference is really helpful. Yeah, I keep hoping I'll hit it, but I just have not. I may have even just gone by it because I was in such a hurry to find it for you guys. Yeah. Oh well. I hoped that I could get it. Maybe one day I'll find it and save it again on the top of my photo roll. Oh, here's a cool one. Just because we're off the subject. But here is a photograph of firelight and like outdoor evening light. So let's see if I can get that to show up. But you guys can hopefully see the blue. So I saved this photo because it like really shows you like kind of the warm and cool juxtaposition of like a really cool outside light and a really warm inside light. So yeah. And the thing to really note also about this is that you get kind of a shadow where the two of these mix, which is kind of neutral. So, all right, that's totally off topic, but anyway. Yeah, no love. I'm so sad. I'm so sad I couldn't find that picture because I know I saved it because I've looked at it other times. I just feel like it's hiding from me. Darn it. Yeah, it's absolutely hiding from me. And in all of the dog pictures and among all the dog pictures and all the miniatures pictures. Yep. Yeah, I'm just going to stop there. Tough. We'll have to try some other time. But yeah, depending. It's a really stylistic thing if you use like purples and blues, but it can be very... yeah, I know I showed you at least once before. But I mean, it really depends kind of on your painting philosophy, what you're doing. The thing is that all skin tones can be shaded with blues and purples. It's not just dark ones. And that's what I mean when I said I would have done a different color to build these shadows. So if I wanted to do a portraiture approach, instead of just mixing in a ruddy brown, I would have mixed in a blue-green because it's the complement of this orangey pink skin tone. Yeah, I'm going to grab... I think we're going to not digress. But anyway, so this type of skin tone shading that I'm doing right here is just more traditional, what I call like typical USA miniature painting. European tends to go a lot more toward the classical. So to build skin tone shadows, most Europeans will probably use, at least, you know, the traditional saturated shadow types will use a blue or purple or a blue-green. The purple works because if you have a very golden light source, a yellow light source like the sun, you are using the complement of the light. But you also should be using the complement of the local color to make really realistic shadows. That is probably more than most miniature painters want to worry about, so we do it, we shortcut it. And it's fair. Like, it makes it easier in some ways to blend. You don't have to know a lot of color theory. I am going to get my liner out, though, because it's bugging me now that I've got all these details that are not lined. I find it really hard to tell how good my blending is if I don't line around the face. And here we've got the glasses as well, so. Yeah, my brown liner is like, I am goopy and stuck. You will have to unclog everything today. But yeah, my best advice for those who are trying to paint dark skin tones is you need to get online and look at a lot of them. And remember that a lot of like the celebrity shots you see are going to be lit by a bright artificial light that may have a bias toward like green or just like, you know, not really a lot of color to it. So that is not necessarily natural light, and it'll give you a different color profile in the camera photo. So try to find a model in the type of lighting, with the type of skin tone you want to do, in the type of lighting you want to do, or close at least. I do need to go through all my photos and do another purge, I think. I managed to get rid of a lot of pack rat tendencies I had growing up, but my photo roll is the one place I still have those tendencies. All right, I'm going to do a quick lining. I don't really have to do it up here at her hairline because I shaded that before. But I want to do a really light lining around the glasses. So very, and to do this, you need a brush with a really good tip. You need to have your paint thinned appropriately. This is about a 4:1 on the brown liner, so I wanted a darker line because this is a smaller figure. So I didn't thin it more. 4:1 is pretty good for the liners. Because they're more fluid out the gate, you can leave them a little thicker and they'll still give you a nice thin line. Carrie, too much work. If I'm going to be organized, I need to organize from the get-go. I long ago learned this about myself. The only exception is if I'm moving, which is essentially a total life reset. It allows me to reorganize. But folders at this point, too much work for me. With all the photos I've got, it would be a huge rabbit hole. It would take me away from all the things I would much rather be doing for days. You gotta watch out. And for some of us who, you know, get kind of anal and fixated, like me, you really got to watch out when you're like, oh, I just need to organize this. If I organize this, everything will be like, you know, better. But then you end up losing so much time organizing it that organizing it becomes the end goal, not actually like getting painting done or whatever you're doing, right? Right, exactly. Yeah, yes, Quindy, exactly. But the whole organizational thing can become addictive. It can essentially undermine the very thing you're trying to do. So, yes, it's good to be organized. Try to do it tactically. Because, yeah, if I honestly would take up days, like I would not work on my Patreon. I would just be like, I've just got to get these photos sorted. It'll be so much more useful, and I'll need some of these photos for my work. And then I'll always be able to find things. But then, as Quinty says, I will forget to put them in, and then I'd have to reorganize, everything new. I can just see it. I just know it. Maybe that's... and it's just knowing myself. I know me. So, yeah, it would take too long. It would just take too much work. Yeah, Sean, exactly. This is where AI is really nice, right? If it can manage this sort of task, that would be the kind of task that I would want to give to an AI. Yeah. Then your AI is just essentially becoming your virtual assistant. I would be in favor of that. I would be okay having a max headroom, that helped me out with all the little things in my life that I could use. Gonna get that. Gonna buy into that. Yes, if organization worked for you, you'd have rocked it by now. Limited organization does work for me. And there are definitely times where I get frustrated because I'll have just chucked stuff in my closet and I stop and try to reorg. But I try to hit that point earlier rather than later so that it's only like a half an hour or maybe an hour that I waste getting things in order. And I have to really ask myself, is it worth spending so much time doing it? Is this really going to help you, right? Like, how often do I access this stuff? So I'm going to line the line of the mouth. And I'm going to line around the neck here. So getting that in there helps me see those the shading a lot better, just for me. So I usually will line around the skin tones before I highlight them. Also, having that dark line gives me kind of a frame of reference. It's this brown liner, yeah. Brown liner is my standard. If I needed a heavier line, I would go with Rogue Shadow. Blue liner I don't actually use to line most of the time. I use it to paint. I use it as a color. Unless I'm mixing a black liner, then I'll mix brown and blue. Used to do that a lot. Yeah, 27 months ago. Yep, Quindy, yeah. Every once in a while, if I'm waiting in line or something, I'm doing something that is kind of a waste of time already and I can't do anything else, then I will sit and I'll open my photo roll and I'll start at the very beginning and I'll just delete. I'll go through and start deleting things. So the front of my photo roll is actually really well organized because I've culled it repetitively over the years so that only the pictures that are the most special to me remain. But it breaks down greatly after that. So remember that shadow on the underside of the nose. And the mouth. All right. So you can see Gibson and whoever else was. Yeah, so when I am shading, I'm doing very little shading and I'm not really going in much darker. I'm just doing one shade darker. So this was the color that was used for shading and it's thinned. So it's a little transparent so it looks lighter, right? So it's you got to thin it. So you're just getting a little bit of difference. You can always shade more. But remember, as you're putting in your shadows, remember you're going to be going back with highlights as well. And that is going to make these shadows look darker. So as I remix up my highlight here, or actually it was my original midtone. It's the peachy flesh plus the rosy skin. And I'm going to try to put a highlight on. But yeah, like if I'm lazy and I'm not sure, like I'll just take a screenshot of something important if I need it. But going back and trying to fix that later. I'm gonna put a little bit of shadow right at the top of the glasses, because often with our skull shape, we'll have a little bit of a shadow there between the dome of the skull and the brow line. So I'm gonna put just a little bit, but it's real subtle. Like this is not real strong. And then the last place you would do it, Gibson, is on the side of the skull here where it falls away, where it becomes flat on the side. That's another place you'd put a shadow. And a lot of models have hair there, so you wouldn't do it, but since Cathy's is pulled back, we can see that shape of the skull. So we want to put that shadow in. So you can see the shadows now, and that they're pretty subtle. But now let's come in and actually do a highlight. Yep, yeah. So either lighten or very much thin your shadows. Or start dark and work light. But sometimes when you've got a very fair person, very fair-skinned person, you don't want to start dark and work light. Like some of us just have that moment where we're like, no, I don't want to go that dark. This is a lighter skin tone, and I'm afraid I'm going to mess it up if I go too dark. And that's fair. So I bring in that highlight on top of the head. Now it's really bright, even though it's not that light where I am. I also want to add a little bit more rosy tone around the nose. So here I'm going to grab a little bit of my magenta and maybe mix it into my shadow, make a new puddle here on the side of the thing. Make it a little more red. And what I want to do here is the nose usually has reddish tones around the nostrils. And so I want to bring in some of this around the sides of the nose. A little bit of a shadow on the top of the nose where it is right under the glasses. And I may wipe out my liner a little bit there, so I may have to reline there around the nose. Quincy. Good, Big Chimpo. That's it. It takes a while just to integrate, just to like really internalize all that stuff. I think I'm gonna grab my brown liner and my magenta because they make a pretty delicious shadow color, actually. Pretty nice purpley color, and get the top of Cathy's lip. The top lip. The top lip should always be dark. And we can actually use this color, if I have enough of it, I can use this color to line around the bottom lip. To bring out that bottom lip. Then I can come in probably with more magenta because Cathy. But I'm trying to just get that little bit of line. And then a little bit of magenta with the skin color and see if I can get a nice magenta lip there. That's getting there. I have been known to delete like my unfavoritist shots of my dogs because I have plenty other ones. So I'm not that sentimental about my extra pet photos. I am not sentimental at all about other people's dogs either, unless they had a relationship to Kiri. If they were Kiri's grandkids, then I got sentimental. little bit of highlight on top of the nose. We need to hit the top of the cheekbone here, but just a little bit. Upper lip, right under the nose. Top of the chin. Now we've made the skin very fair, and if we decide that it's maybe gone a little bit too far, we can glaze with a darker color to drag it back. I want to bring around the highlight on the side of the face. And if we get a little bit of white in frame, I think you'll be able to see it a little better there. So she looks pretty pasty when I don't have the white in frame. And I could actually combat that by painting her glasses over white, because I'm probably going to make them a bright color, probably blue. So if I add some pure white in the frame, then the skin tone will start to look a little darker. Yeah, see how that adding the white makes the skin tone look darker. So it's magic, really. You just want your contrast. If your skin tones look too pale, add white to the model somewhere, especially right next to the face. Now this will change, of course, once I actually color these glasses, but it does give us more of a relative idea of where our skin tone sits. And I definitely wiped out my line up there, so I'll have to re-add it. Okay, you get the top there. But yeah, so we're going to be mixing our armor colors. I was thinking that at least the main part would be a steel, so we'll be mixing our steel color from scratch. We won't just be using white and black either. We'll be doing kind of a combo. And then the lion will be probably a dark bronze or gold. Same with the little paint pots over here. And then we'll have to figure out, we definitely want our sun to be yellow. There is a little bit of an insert behind the sun here, so maybe we go blue with that. I think I may do cyan with a gold trim and a magenta fringe down here. Because she's got a lot of armor on her, so it's going to be a lot of metal. And I need the line around this side of her jaw too. So let's trim up these glasses a little bit because I wiped out my really fragile line. And you may find yourself going back and forth on these a little bit. Because you'll like wipe out your line and then you'll blob on your white and then you'll go back and forth. It's okay. The best of us do it. Because I'm trying not to hurt the skin tone, so I blocked out a little bit of the white. There we go. Now I want the line at this side of the jaw because I didn't get it there. But if you want to know, like, the range of skin tones is just so wide. Because, like, here we've got this very fair skin tone for Cathy. But then this is the bust that we were working on smoothing out over the weekend. Making her skin tones much nicer. And, like, if they're both, like, it's both a fair, like, a lighter skin tone, right? But the difference is dramatic. And if you just looked at her without Cathy in frame, you'd know she was sunburned and weathered, but she was still a lighter skin tone. But then you look at this, yeah, that's what I did on my stream this weekend, Quindy, was to smooth out those skin tones a bit. Still needs more work, but it's getting there. I want to be able to do the hair. I wanted to be able to do the hair without hating the skin tones this month. Yeah, a lot of smoothing stuff, and a lot of corrections because I had a lot of like imperfections on the surface, like little bits and like irregularities that I was trying to fix without having to resort to putty since I'd already done a lot of painting. So I was using a lot of sealer. Use sealer to fill in a divot in the resin, big chimpo and stuff like that. A lot of that. Less, like, not as much painting as I originally wanted to do because I was doing a lot of fixing. Sometimes when I just grab a simple model to just use for a Patreon thing, like, I don't put the prep work in because I'm like, oh, it's just a throwaway example model. And then, unfortunately, I find myself liking it, so then I have to stop and actually do the corrections. And often it's harder to do the corrections at that point. So there we go. Again, line of the jaw, and I'll clean it up a little bit with our skin tone paint. Kiki, are you going to come visit? My door is open and you haven't even noticed. Keekers. I heard you clicking around, little dog. She's like, nope. Nope. Actually, it's too quiet. I'm going to check on her. Not always, Chimpo. There's plenty of models that I've kind of like just let be kind of throwaways, but I liked how her skin tone was turning out, so I had to actually stop and even out some crazy, and I still need a little bit more evening on some of that. Hey, Kiki! Are you moving? Keeker! She's like, where are you, Mommy? 1 second. Let me check the dog. Could be Gibson. It really gives a kind of a frame of reference for the skin tone shadows and stuff. Come on over. Yeah, come on over. Look, there's a door. Come on in, say hi to peeps. Yeah, come say hi. Oh, do you want to get up on the chair? Here, Kiki, up on the chair. Up. Yeah, good girl. Yay, Keekers. Oh, you want to do that? There's a face. There's my face. Yay! Oh, hi. Good girl. Good girl. Yay, Kiki. Yay. Good girl. Everybody missed you. I had to bring you in when I heard you moving around. Good girl. Good girl. Yeah, good girl. Okay, you can get down. Good girl. Yay. Good girl. All right. Yeah, hi. Well, it's not time yet. No, you can go out there. Good girl. No, but there were plenty this morning, Tyler. Woof. Yeah, she's got a really reddish brown color, caramel color going on, Gibson. Alrighty. But yeah, I mean, lining, as you can see, adds an awful lot. So I highly I don't feel right about my skin tones unless I stop and line. So like that, and that's the case, honestly. Yeah, well, it brings out all the little details, right, by reinforcing where the hard edges are. And it also makes the blends look better because you've got that hard line and then next to it you've got the fade. So even if it's not a perfect blend, it still looks better. Relatively. So yeah. I mean, a great many, honestly, if you're not lining and you're like reaching for being an intermediate level painter, like you're layering and glazing, you need to line. If you're doing 28ths, you need to learn to line, in my opinion. Like for me, there's no negotiation on that. Not until you get to the point where you're like, I can alternate my light and dark semi-figure and paint in dark enough shadows and high enough highlights that I don't need to line. So if you can do that, you don't need to line. But most painters, when they're making the jump from like, you know, like basic to intermediate, yeah, I need to. Well, you should just do lining on everything. I mean, skin is just one of the places that lining helps. But I mean, the lining is like, it's like double duty because it increases your brush control at the same time as you're working on making it, you know, just make your miniatures look better. So it also has the side effect of making you a better painter by increasing brush control. So just coming back in, I thinned my highlight a little bit. I want to get that ear. I'm not averse to calling people out from time to time. No, not ever, Big Chimpo. I'm just usually looking for a dark brown or a dark gray. So if you use black, it looks more cartoony. If you use a brown or a gray brown, it tends to look more organic, more natural, because that's the way our shadows tend to go in real life. So it's really never, the brown liner is always the right answer, essentially, and walnut, which is also a black brown. But I've always used a black brown. Black, if you're doing like cartoon style, so anime style or manga style or cartoon style on a miniature, then you want to use black for sure. Because you're going to need to, you know, to get that feel, the right feel for it. Yeah, you could do that. Cracking, I mean, using a darker version of the color on the model can be fine. Just make sure it looks right on everything. Like, usually it's going to be dark enough that it's not really going to matter. Only if it starts to look weird or artificial, because you used a colored liner and maybe it doesn't look so good up against some of the colors that you're doing. But you should be okay with cracking ink. Because, again, if you're painting something that's under a normal light source, which would be the sun, yellow, purple is not a bad color to be mixing into your shadows anyway, so you're probably fine. Again, we are to the point of don't overthink it, just do. Use your judgment call as to whether it looks okay. Learn to trust your gut on that. So I'm liking this side of the mouth here. I'm liking the details we've got all on this side of the face, actually. Honestly, the glasses are going to shade the eyes in there anyway. So I'm going to just darken those down with a little bit of liner with some water in it. Yes, lining is just highly abbreviated shading. It's very efficient shading. And it works best on smaller models. But yeah, it mimics what we see in real life, right, Big Chimpo? Because we see micro shadows. You know, you see this micro shadow underneath my glasses up against my face. You know, my glass rims are silver, but you can still see that thin dark line. So, yes, and I do have a lining. I do have a lining on my YouTube channel, yes. Essentially, what you do is you line everywhere one surface meets another one slalom. And on 28mm, it can really make everything much crisper. The only time that you really don't need to line is if her armor was black and it was up against her pale skin. I wouldn't need to line there because the armor is so dark and the skin is so pale, it acts naturally to make the details stand out. But if her armor was like pale, if it's going to be like silver and her skin is this pale color, I definitely want that line that I put in there to just separate out the things. But yeah, if you go to my YouTube and you go to, I think it is number 6 is lining, my fundamentals videos. That's me explaining all this stuff in a much more targeted way, so you don't have to watch a whole hour-and-a-half stream. I'm going to thin my line down a little bit by adding in more shadow here on the neck. All right, yeah, I'm actually kind of liking this. So the shadows here around the nose make the nose come out a bit more now. Her expression comes out more. We can see the details around the face. I do need to go over on this side. I need to put in another highlight on the other side of the mouth. Yeah, yep. Yeah, that's really nice if you can like do that or see that. Just like here's this model. Now let's pop in an extra highlight and use lining, and it looks like so much better. As you get bigger in models, you can stop lining. Usually then the shadows are going to be, shadows and highlights will be enough, and the model is, if you're watching your contrast. But I will still line on a 72. Like, I'm lining this bust. See it? I'm just making it very much more subtle. Like, you can see the line right now, but once I'm done, that line will just be a super thin shadow. And likewise here, where I'm blocking in this dark, it is lining, but as I paint the hair over the top, it's just going to become another shadow. So that's what I mean when I say on big models. They're big enough that like natural shadows that are being cast and like the lining you do ends up getting painted over a little bit and it just looks like a natural shadow. And I lined this model. Again, though, you can see that I'm fading the skin tone over my lining here. So the line is there, but it's de-emphasized. It's not as dark as it might otherwise be. For the most part, I've got a little bit of lining like here between, you can see between the purple and the gold. Because I know the gold I'm going to bring up, and then it's, this highlight won't be enough to define the edge anymore. But, the lining here is more selective. Depends on what everything is up against. But you can see the line there between the headband and the skin. All that kind of thing. So I do line. On the other hand, Anubis does not have a lot of lining. So with him, I've just let the natural dark purple shadow and the fact that this is much lighter, that just stands. We don't have lining here. But we still have enough contrast that it looks like, because I've got that dark shadow coming in next to this bright part. So you don't need lining if you've got that kind of contrast moving from one area to another. But you do want some lining if you're failing, if you don't have that contrast. So and with 28s, because everything is so very small, you tend to need it. Lining the mouth is like one step that like I'm just like, you've got to do it on 28s. You've got to. You can't not do it. But like I said, if you get to where you work your contrast so extreme that your shadows are really dark and your highlights are really light, and like then you can get away without lining. You don't need it then. There, we've got the mouth now. That looks pretty good. Pretty happy with that skin tone. I think it's the only skin. Yeah, she's wearing gauntlets. She's got no other skin. So by making her skin so fair, not only are we staying close to Cathy, but we're making sure that the focal point is up here, because this is going to be like light and bright. So hopefully the Kiki is not totally destroying something. The other day I walked in and she destroyed her last bed, so there is one old Kiri bed that I can probably sew the hole shut, but Kiki is bedless right now because she has destroyed them all. Except for the one in her bedtime crate, which is not a real, it's more just a mat. But I'll repair the one and see how long it lasts. But she may not have another bed until she's a year old. Cathy's not a demon knight. Well, okay, maybe Cathy would want to be a demon knight. I don't know. I'm just doing a little bit of highlighting. I've got my magenta and my white here, so I may as well mix up a little bit of highlight. But yeah, Kiki's kind of been a terror lately. She's going through bully sticks like crazy, and we took her to the dog park yesterday and she got to run and play for a bit, but she is still the Kiki. And I can hear her chewing something. 1 second while I check it out, guys. I just gotta make sure. What you got, Ba? Or are you chewing that wubba? Or are you going to try to chew it and destroy it? Are you succeeding? 1 second. Are you succeeding? Yeah, are you chewing that wubba? Well, I did tell you I didn't care if you chewed it. Yeah, what are you doing? You chewing it, huh? Yeah, good girl. Yeah, good girl. Yeah, that's all right. You can keep chewing that. You're a good girl. Yep. Good girl. No, we're not quite done yet, Keeks. I gotta finish. Once I finish this, we can go for our walk. Yep, she's chewing open a toy. But you know what? I could just tell she wasn't chewing her bully stick, because that's a different sound. Oh, we already had to gate off part of our furniture, so she couldn't chew that big chimpo. So again, we'll be happy when she's through this phase. But I gave her wubba, her Kong wubba, this morning, knowing that she would probably chew it. And she is. She's not teething. She's had her adult teeth for forever, but it's just, she's a chewer. It's the way she is. Okay. Turgeon, you're super funny. Yeah, dudes, I published a book. As Turgeon points out, you can find it. It's on Barnes & Noble now. So you can get to Barnes & Noble or Amazon. And it's called East of the Sun, and you should search East of the Sun Becker to find it. And yes, and if you have no money, it will be going on sale. You can also read it for free on Kindle Unlimited. There we go. But yes, I've got a sale scheduled for May. And remember, if you're reading it and you liked it, I would love a review. You don't have to write it out. All you have to do is leave me stars. But if you write it out, that's even better. I am working hard on book 2 as we speak. Got about 6,000 words in this weekend. It's a good writing weekend. Of course, I totally neglected everything else I was supposed to be doing, but yeah. Yeah, wood. That's why they make those Nylabones now that are made with wood. I actually got Kiki one. She actually likes it. I was amused. Makes it smell more like a stick and less like a plastic bone. Oh, now the squeaks are coming. I hear the squeaks. The Kika squeaks. Just popping in some highlights on the hair since we're about at the end of the stream, so I just wanted to do a little touch up there. So we got those there, we're gonna there, and we've got our skin tones. And so we'll do a CMYK on this for the rest of it. For all the metal. Should be fun. Or something. But I'm very happy with the skin tone, actually. It's hard to do fair skin tones because it's so hard to nail those shadows. So like when you want a really, really fair skin tone, it can be just really difficult. Really difficult. Because of, as Gibson points out, the shadows just can get too heavy or take over the piece or get too blotchy. So, oh yeah, David's in the middle of that, Agent Marvel. It's a very pretty game. It's a very pretty game. Yeah, Kiki choose an Bone game, but Kiki's like MO from the beginning has been to prefer the easy road. So if she has a soft thing to chew open, she'll do that. Quindy. And you'd have to wander through Hogwarts for many, many hours because that place is a freaking maze. I'm always like looking at David and saying, how the heck do you even know where you're going? It's a good thing they have waypoints because like flu powder flues. Because seriously, it's a huge maze. But it is a very pretty game. I give them that. The environment is very cool. I am avoiding it because I know I would play the heck out of it and I would promptly stop working on my book and on all my other stuff. And I don't want to do that. So I'm avoiding Hogwarts Legacy. I'm avoiding buying it. I'll probably put it on my wish list and wait till it's on sale at some undetermined, undisclosed time in the future and then do it. Oh, jeez, Cornico. Yeah, I just can't. There's so much else in the world I want to do. Like, my big time sink was when World of Warcraft released, and all my friends at Reaper were playing it, so we had a guild. And I lost a good decade. To WoW. Raiding and doing all the rest of it. And I think that's enough digital. That the digital world got enough out of me. I've given it enough of my time. I need to do things like write books, paint minis, things that I have, knit things so that I have something physical to show. That's what killed it for me. Is that at the end of the day, I had nothing physical to show that I could enjoy for all of the time that I had spent. And so I was done. Like, I still play Overwatch, but I play it so little, and I get my happy little skins and everything that I can enjoy while I play the game. But like, otherwise, I wasn't even that good of a raider either. Yeah, and it's just like, I mean, yeah, my character looked cool and all, and it was fun. It was fun because the raiding at least was like doing things with a group and like overcoming challenges with a group, and there's part of me that does really enjoy that. But these days, I've wasted so much time and I want to write so many books. And books take a long time to write. Yeah, exactly. See, and that's just it, is I play Overwatch when I would otherwise be doing something pretty, like, I don't have enough brain for anything else. So I totally get it, Cornico. I don't want to guilt anybody who loves playing computer games. Like, do it. If it's your groove, do it. I just can't do it. I'd always rather be making something. Yeah, you didn't like it, Delta? David's finding it fairly simple, although some of the fights have challenged him a lot. But yeah, it's definitely... it's meant to be... I think it's meant to be warm and, like, relatively unchallenging unless you put it to hard mode. I don't know. Maybe, and for a real... Like, if you're used to stuff like Metroid or like, games that are, like, seriously challenging, the puzzles in Hogwarts are not that, right? They're not that. But, yes, there's nothing wrong with looking after digital animals. I mean, I played Pokemon Go for a while, too. Quite a while. Mostly because it made me walk. Yeah. But yeah, it's totally, I get it, Delta, because David is like, I'm like, so how are the puzzles? Because he really likes a good puzzle. And he's like, well, they're pretty easy. I'm like, yeah, that's what I thought. And just watching him do it. But there's nothing wrong with that. If you just want to, I mean, people are buying that game, I think, Delta, because they want to wander through the world, right? Like, it seems a very story world immersive game. So if you really want to fly on a broomstick and you really want to just like see awesome views in Hogwarts and be in a house and do all that stuff, yeah, it's nostalgic for sure. Yeah, they did a good job on the environment, I thought. Like, really, it's a really beautiful game. It's a beautiful game. Yeah, right, exactly. So then when you go and play a game like that, like Hogwarts is like totally different, right? Because you're not going up against your opponents. So yeah, there are games for everybody. Yeah, David likes harder puzzle games, but he's even enjoying it. I don't know. I'll have to ask him what he likes and doesn't like. Okay, well, it's almost 20 after, and the Kiki is like, I would like to destroy something new if you don't get off the computer soon. But yes, we managed to get skin on Cathy. Tomorrow, we are back to Sophie. So we're working on the red. We didn't quite get to the red on the back. So we'll do the red. We'll finish out the red, and we'll probably do, we'll do the steel bits maybe up here. And figure out, yeah, because we got some chain to do down here too. We got leather and chain. But I want to finish out the red tomorrow too. Yeah, Kiki's eyeing the couch cushion. Exactly, right? So yeah, we're back to Sophie. I think she's really coming out nicely. Thank you all for popping in, as usual. Yeah, you can even see the difference in Sophie's skin tone and Cathy's, right? Because Sophie, I always do a little bit darker because I'm starting with more of that tan skin shadow kind of color. And then Cathy, I wanted to go much pinker and lighter. So there's such a variety of skin tones that you can do with light skin tones and dark skin tones, right? A lot of us think about the dark skin tones. There's very, very wide range. But even in light skin tones, there's differences, right? So, yes, and Rhonda is on today. Come back and hang out with our very own Rhonda. All right, folks, thank you for hanging out. And yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. Have a great one. Have a good Monday. Hopefully it's not too much of a Monday. How about that? All right, thanks, Quindy. Bye.